This is Rudy with Aquatic Facility Training and Consultants, and today we're going to talk a little bit about float tanks. Now I have to admit, this is not one of my strong points. I don't know a lot about them, so I decided what I would do is reach out to my friend Jeff. Jeff operates Driftaway Float Center over in Tallahassee, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about the care and maintenance of these things. All right, so I have Jeff on the phone here, and before we start, Jeff, I just have to ask, have you ever thought of standing out in front of your float center dressed as a clown holding a little red balloon, shouting at people, "Hey, everybody floats in here. We all float in here."
We're trying to chill them out, not scare them here.
There you go. All right, so with that, if you could, the name of your center again?
It is Driftaway Float Center.
And that's in Tallahassee?
Yep.
These things have been around, I guess, since the early 70s now, if I'm not mistaken. And you hear a lot of stuff about the wellness factor, but what I want to know about is the maintenance. So walk me through a day in the life of taking care of one of these tanks. What do we got to do? How do we set them up? What's the maintenance on it?
So the day-to-day isn't really too bad. In Florida, they regulate float tanks as a public pool.
And that's kind of the reason why we met, realistically, met Jeff in one of my certified pool operator certification classes. As this is regulated as a public pool, all folks who operate a float tank center and maintain the float tanks must be trained and certified. Okay?
So we have to use either chlorine or bromine as a sanitizer in the water.
Well, that makes perfect sense. If you're being regulated as a public pool, you definitely have the same requirements as far as bromine or chlorine as a disinfectant in the float tank itself. And are you required to have the same levels as a public pool?
So we have to have at least, because I use bromine, so we have to have at least, I believe it's 3 parts per million.
So you have to fall somewhere in there?
Right. So I think they classify us as like a specialty pool, so there's a slight variation.
Okay. So speaking of it, I mean, I guess we can start with that. How often do you see the health official?
So I had the health inspector come by really just once to check everything out. I've only been open 4 months.
Okay, so
so just kind of getting into it. I believe I'll have somebody come out probably twice a year just to check pH and sanitizer level and that kind of thing.
Same as a regular public pool?
Right.
Okay, and is it just pH and sanitizer that they check for?
Yeah, that is my understanding.
Okay, then you would be required to maintain the same range between 7.2 and 7.8 for the float tank
correct.
For pH?
Yep, correct.
Because I
So
know
it really hasn't been too much of a challenge keeping everything kind of right. The problem I've found is that when the bromine gets used, it lowers the pH.
And that makes perfect sense. Bromine tablets being acidic, we see the same results in spas and pools that use bromine, that bromine tablets do in fact bring down the pH.
So kind of with that, I probably add a little bit of soda ash maybe once a week.
Okay. And
so that part of it is very minimal. They're pretty much, for the industry-wide, people don't like using bromine or chlorine, obviously, because you have the byproducts.
right.
So the majority of the industry actually uses hydrogen peroxide in the water. Most of the float tanks most of them are starting to have UV light in it as well, so the water passes through.
Right. But these would have to be in areas, I guess, where the health department didn't see it as a pool, right?
Right, exactly. So there's a couple states, I think like us and North Carolina, maybe a couple more, that are pretty strict about things. Other states don't regulate them at all. So it's kind of variation depending on what state you're in.
So what salt level do we have to have in those things? How much salt to how much water?
It's not like I add like a couple cups, probably 2 to 4 cups of Epsom salt, depending on how many people come in that day. Just kind of keep the levels right.
Okay.
But I haven't found it affecting the pH really at all.
Okay, and you probably wouldn't, because salt itself actually has a neutral pH, and wouldn't really drive that up. It's in the saltwater pools after it's gone through electrolysis, then that's where we do see the increase. But otherwise, again, salt neutral pH shouldn't be a factor there.
The only thing I've really found that lowers the pH slightly gradually is just when the bromine is getting kind of used up.
So would you consider your float tank to be heavily used? I mean, or is there somebody in it pretty much nonstop throughout the day?
Not super heavily used. It kind of comes and goes. Weekends are usually busier, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
What do we see? What do we see in the float tank in the course of a day on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday?
So I can do, in one float tank, I can do 8 people in a full day.
Okay.
So that kind of gives you an idea. Like I said, I'm just kind of getting going, so it's not
I
super
understand.
busy quite yet.
That's cool. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. So let me ask then, so we add the salt. How often do you have to change the water?
So ideally, I would never have to change the water. It's kind of just if the chemistry gets way out of whack and for whatever reason you can't kind of get your levels back right. From what I've heard, the majority of people usually switch out their water every 12 to 18 months.
Okay.
But granted, since I haven't been that long, I don't know yet. But yeah, people are saying that if you can keep your pH right and you're having your sanitizer levels, that really you should never really need to switch it out. It's kind of constantly getting changed out. I'm always adding a little bit of water and I'm always adding a little bit of salt. And you're having some water evaporating out. So
what temperature do we maintain the water at?
The water temperature, we keep it right about 94 degrees.
Okay.
Your skin temperature is 93.5 for most people. So that's kind of like that perfect range. You want it to be right at skin temperature. So eventually you can't really tell what's below the water and what's above the water. It all feels the same.
Interesting. Okay.
That's kind of the whole point of floating, is just to relieve yourself of all that external stimuli. So no touch, no light, no sound, no nothing.
Did you ever have anybody freak out inside of there?
Let me out of here! Help!
Beating on the walls of the tank and such?
Nobody's freaked out. I had one person who, I guess she was like super sensitive to the bromine and she could smell it slightly, and she was like, nah, that wasn't really for me. But everybody who's come in has at least been a little bit relaxed afterwards.
A little odd, probably more so in her mind. One of the benefits of bromine is that, even in its combined form, it doesn't tend to have an odor, which is part of the popularity of its use in hot water facilities. So what type of filter do you have on that?
So I have I'm blanking on the brand now.
Cartridge sand?
It's 2 cartridge, 50 square feet cartridge filters.
And how often do you have to clean those?
I take Monday off, and that's kind of my deep cleaning day.
Okay, so weekly.
I'll switch out the filters. I've got a few I kind of rotate through, so I'll pull it out, put a new one in, and just spray it off and clean it, and kind of put it back on the shelf to reuse later.
Okay. And the heater, I guess it's a small heater. Is it self-contained, kind of like a spa pack? It's like this whole little kit with the motor, the cartridge, and the heater, and it just kind of slides in underneath it somewhere? Is that how that's set up?
So it's kind of all built into the tank. I can send you some pictures of it. The cartridge filters are up front, so they're easy to change. You can just open the lid and pull them out.
Right.
Everything else, the pump and the heater and everything in the UV, are all in the back.
Okay.
So it uses an inline heater, and it also has a mat heater underneath to keep the water warm while you're floating.
So do we run these non-stop 24/7? Aside from when you're cleaning?
Yeah, it depends on what kind of tank you have. My pod, when somebody's not floating, the filtration is constantly running, so it's 24/7.
But it doesn't run when somebody's in there?
Right, so when somebody's in there, everything's off.
Okay. And that's a little different than the health code, right? Because the health department code, and they're okay with that?
Yeah, so I think there's only 3 manufacturers. With Florida, you have to go through and file a bunch of variances.
Right.
Just because a lot of the public pool stuff just makes 0 sense for floating. So that's kind of part of it.
Do they require you to actually have some of the safety equipment that, obviously, you're not going to throw a ring buoy in there. Do you have to have one anyway?
No, so we don't have to have like a buoy or a lifeguard. We have to have like a handrail right outside the pod, so you can grab on to help get out.
Okay.
And we have to have like the general pool rules posted.
Just like for a public pool.
Right.
Okay.
But other than that, it's not like we need a buoy or anything in there. It's only 11 inches of water, so.
I know the outside of the pod probably gets dirty and needs maintenance, but I'm guessing you can just wipe that down. But the inside of the pod, with all the evaporation, must be moist constantly. What's the concern, and how do we clean it?
Yeah, so when I first got the pod put in, I had a lot of condensation inside, and that was mostly because the room temperature was very cool compared to the inside of the pod, so you get that condensation.
And that would make sense in that scenario. It's just like we talked about in class. Whenever the water temperature is warmer than the air temperature, that's when you lose energy to the cooler sky. We call that radiation. The way that we prevent that in an auditorium or an indoor pool is that you make sure that your air temperature is at least 2 to 5 degrees warmer than the water temperature itself. Okay. So air quality, like in an auditorium.
Okay. Yeah, so what I've put it at, and kind of talking with everybody else, is we keep the room about 80 to 83 degrees.
Okay.
Obviously, you're not going to have the room be like 95 degrees. So that kind of, and I also added a fan that, because there's, in the pod that I have, there's like a little ventilation kind of hose that's supposed to let some kind of air flow through.
Right.
But it's not really the greatest, so this guy made a fan that attaches to it, so that's pulling out some of the humidity as well.
Just like in an auditorium, fresh air exchange 4 to 6 times every hour. So you actually have like an air handling system set up for the room that the tank is in, just like the natatorium where you took the class.
Because I keep my bromine as low as possible. I wish we didn't even have to have it in there.
Right.
So I'm keeping it right at 3 parts per million, like on the dot constantly. So I found with that, I tried using the feeder they wanted me to, and it was just loading that thing up with bromine, and I was not happy with it. Exactly.
Interesting. And the shower rule that applies, they have to shower before they get in?
Yep, so we make them shower off before and after, just to get kind of dirt and oil and that kind of thing, just to help keep the water quality as best as we can.
Do they
and
seem
then
okay
obviously
with
you want
that?
to shower off just because you're covered in salt afterwards.
They seem okay with that?
Oh yeah, it's nobody's had any problems with it.
Cool.
I've had some people come in and it's like, oh, I took a shower right before I came. I'm like, no, you still need to at least rinse off. So yeah, nobody's had a problem with it. It's standard procedure for a float center is shower off before. We were saying with kind of the outside room temperature and having the fan, I haven't had a condensation problem inside the tank, so that's been nice. I do, like, I'll scrub the water line a couple times a day, and in between each person, we have to run the filter. It has to filter 5 times in between each person.
5 times in between each. So what's the actual turnover?
How
long does it take?
You saying how long?
Yeah.
It takes about 27 minutes, I think, with our setup.
27 minutes per turn, or to do 8.
Say that again?
It's 27 to turn 180 gallons once, or 8 times?
5 times.
27 minutes will overturn the water 5 times?
Correct, yeah.
So your flow rate is insane.
The flow rate is like, what is it?
So 27 divided by 5, that's basically once every 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, I think I want to say the flow rate is like 32 or 33
gallons per minute. Okay.
Yeah, I think that works out.
Special type of cleaner you have to use on the tank itself?
So like for the outside, if nobody's there, I'll use like just water and vinegar. That's really good for just the salt, getting the salt off.
Vinegar being acidic, it probably does a bang-up job on that. Actually, back in the day, they'd use vinegar to lower pH in swimming pools because of its acidicness, and that came to an end in the water anyway when they found that it formed acetates, which was also then a byproduct that could be harmful. But on the outside of the tank, that's perfect.
Inside the tank, I forget the brand, but it's just kind of a all-natural, no chemicals kind of spray-on cleaner. So every couple of days I'll get inside the tank, spray everything down, wipe it down, just to kind of clean everything off.
Do you float there while you're doing it in the dark?
What was that?
Do you float in the dark and do this?
Not while I'm cleaning, no, I have the light on.
So there is a light inside. Okay.
Inside, inside it has a multicolor LED light. So
is there like
red.
a panic button? Is there a panic button in case somebody freaks out?
It does have an intercom system hooked up, so they can just push a button and then they're hands-free from there, and I can talk to them if they need. And then the way we get them out of the pod is there's a music system hooked up.
Right.
So there'll be a little bit of music starts playing at the end to let them know, okay, time's up, time to get out.
Okay, cool. So I guess I'm out of questions. Is there anything I missed as far as the maintenance of one of those things?
I don't think so. I mean, if you just stay on it and, take a little time every day, it's very easy. I haven't really had too many problems.
Okay.
What I have found is that at the start, when I was using the bromine, is that it reacts with the hard minerals in the water and can stain the tank brown. So that was kind of a hassle I had to figure out. So I found out that you can use little vitamin C tablets and just scrub the tank and it takes that stain right off.
And again, that's one of the things we do with swimming pools or spas when there's staining. Ascorbic acid itself is actually phenomenal for removing stains. One of the ways we test to see if that'll work is we take a vitamin C tablet, rub it on the spot. If that removes the stain, then we know an ascorbic acid treatment will work. Well, I guess that's about all the questions I have. I know I kept you on the phone for a little bit.
Yeah, that all sounds good. I can't think of anything really to add.
Okay.
If I do, I'll definitely let you know. And
Cool.
like I said,
Awesome. I appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
no problem. All right.
All
Have a
right.
good one.
Thanks for talking to me, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
So there you have it. There is no clowning around when it comes to float tanks. That was Jeff Spinks of Driftaway Float Center in Tallahassee. I'm Rudy with Aquatic Facility Training and Consultants.